All right, coming up on Verts, we got a loaded show today. Is Brandon Aiyuk getting traded a growing possibility for the San Francisco 49ers? We dissect that. Plus, is Justin Fields gaining momentum and becoming the starting quarterback in even week one for the Pittsburgh Steelers? A lot of question marks around Russell Wilson right now. We're going to get into both of those stories coming up on Verts. And speaking of which, help us out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We just crossed 1,100 subscribers, so shout out to all of you. We're continuing to grow this show. Our most subbed episode up to this point is 96 subscribers. Can we get 100 new members of the family here today? It's 100% free NFL and college football content on a daily basis. I'm Harrison Graham. It is Verts on the Chat Sports Network. Let's dive into the latest on Brandon Aiyuk because things are really starting to heat up here on Monday afternoon. Couple of different reports out there. We'll start with Matt Maiocco, who has covered the 49ers out of the Bay for a long time. Actually got to meet him a couple of years ago at the Super Bowl. Classic Big J who gets some scoops with this football team. And he basically said that for the first time, based on what he's been told, trading Aiyuk is a legitimate option for San Francisco, and he also said that the ball is in Aiyuk's court. Some other tidbits from this report from Maiocco is that the Niners' latest offer is at least a couple of $1 million less than $30 million per year, which is reportedly what Aiyuk wants. He also said that the team and 49ers the 49ers and Aiyuk at this point do have some options. Like Aiyuk could decide to sign for what they're offering. He could opt to go to a different team. Like that is very much on the table. Sounds like they could be working together through some of these options. And again, doubling down, saying that a trade is, quote, more likely than ever. And the rumors don't stop there. That's just his report out of the Bay today. The rumors have kind of circulated around three teams, with Pittsburgh being the big name, but Cleveland and the Patriots have been mentioned as well as potential suitors. New England more of a dark horse, with Aiyuk choosing to go or having some say here on where he could go. I don't buy New England that much. They're not ready to win right now, but Cleveland clearly trying to win right now, and Pittsburgh has been a team all offseason that has reportedly been interested in Brandon Aiyuk, so I definitely buy that one. There's been a lot of Steelers chatter this morning as well, on into the afternoon, which we will talk about. And I do want to add this too, because Adam Schefter, when he talks NFL scoopage, you certainly listen. He said this on Pat McAfee's show earlier today. If Brandon Aiyuk doesn't want to go to a team where he can say, I'm not taking that contract, he has the ability to say no to teams. In other words, if the 49ers say, hey, we got a trade offer from New England, and Aiyuk's like, I'm not going to New England, he's not going there. So I think that's further confirmation that the Niners are working with him on this. Like, they want to keep him. They have an offer for him. But if he wants to go elsewhere and make more money, they will work with him as long as the trade package is something that makes sense. Now, let's dive into that part of it. I think if you look at these three teams, I'm looking at three players to identify if I'm San Francisco as part of a trade. Because, again, the 49ers are trying to win the Super Bowl this year. Not next year, not 3 years from now, right now. If they can't work this out with Aiyuk, they want a win-now piece in return for 2024, in addition to probably some draft compensation. So I think the Browns is pretty simple. You do some kind of swap for Amari Cooper. That's been rumored out there. Grant Cohn mentioned that. He's covered the Niners for several years. Others have mentioned that as well. Amari Cooper and a third for Brandon Aiyuk. They're similar caliber player, but Cooper's 4 or 5 years older, so I think that tracks. Cooper and a day 2 pick for Aiyuk. New England, I think you're looking at Matt Judon in a pick, Matt Judon a receiver in a pick, something like that. He's a little bit older, but you put him on the opposite of Nick Bosa, that really bolsters that defensive line. Your offense takes a hit, but your defense gets better. Maybe it's Judon and a 2 and a 4 or something like that. Judon and a 2, maybe that gets it done. I don't think New England, if they have to give up Judon, is also giving up a first, considering even if they get Brandon Aiyuk, they're probably picking in the top 10 next year. I mean, they're not ready to contend right now, so I don't think they're going to give up a top 10 pick for Aiyuk. But Judon in the 40th pick next year, if that's roughly where they'd be picking in round 2, I think they would swallow that pill. And then if it is Pittsburgh, which has been gaining the most steam in the last 24 hours, I think Alex Highsmith is a player. You could look at an offensive lineman if San Francisco wanted to add a James Daniels. Could they convince Pittsburgh to trade Broderick Jones, who they drafted in the first round last year? That would surprise me, but you put him at right tackle, who is a clear upgrade over Colton McKivitz, opposite of Trent Williams, assuming the Niners can work that out. That's a pretty stout tackle group for San Francisco. Again, you're taking a hit at receiver, but if you get a top-tier offensive tackle, at least potentially, young player in Jones, that could certainly play a role. If not, Highsmith as a guy who can rush the passer opposite of Bosa as well. And again, it does sound like the Steelers are in the lead. A lot of internet chatter around that right now. Cam Marino mentioned them as the leaders in the clubhouse. And listen, if you're Pittsburgh and you're trying to get Brandon Aiyuk, I think it makes sense for a couple of reasons. One, it gives you one of the better duos at receiver in the NFL along with George Pickens. Two, it really gives you a clear chance to evaluate both your quarterbacks, right? Russell Wilson, if he can be reincarnated, if you will. We're going to talk about the Steelers QB situation in a minute with Justin Fields, but speaking of Fields, it would give Fields the best offensive room he's been in, because obviously the Bears have really added to their talent room this year, but the best he had was last year, and that was just DJ Moore and a bunch of other guys. You get Brandon Aiyuk and George Pickens for Justin Fields. That would be the best wide receiver combination he's had. So listen, it would really bolster that offense, and it sounds like Pittsburgh's willing to pay up for Brandon Aiyuk, and they're a team that historically has spent heavy on defense. Like, it's kind of time for the Steelers to make a splash offensively. So, look, here's my take. I think the 49ers have drawn a line in the sand. I think they've said, look, here's our offer. It's not changing. I know the market's gone up and you feel like you're worth $30 million, and on the open market you probably are. So if you can find that elsewhere and we can get a trade that makes sense, we'll trade you out. Or you can take this offer. And like Matt Maiocco said and Adam Schefter said, Aiyuk has choices here. Ball's in his court. Like, what does Brandon Aiyuk want? Does he want to stay and have stability in San Francisco and understand his role in the offense, even if it is a pass-first team or a run-first team? Or does he want to make a little more money elsewhere, maybe have some uncertainty, but have more financial security? That's really what this comes down to. So we'll see where it goes. I do think Aiyuk would like to go to Pittsburgh. I think he'd most preferably stay in San Francisco, but if Pittsburgh's going to offer him $30 million per year and $85 million guaranteed, and San Francisco's like, here's $27 a year, $70 million guaranteed, he'd probably rather go to Pittsburgh. I'm just throwing numbers out. I don't know what the exact negotiations are, but I do think it's pretty clear at this point in time that San Francisco is not budging on their offer. And I think there's a few reasons for that. They had to pay up for Christian McCaffrey because he plays an integral role to this offense. Trent Williams needs more money. He's more important to them winning a Super Bowl this year than Brandon Aiyuk in their eyes. They're not going to overpay in their eyes. They might feel like 27-28 is an overpay in their eyes. I think DJ Moore getting 27.5, they're probably looking at that and saying, okay, that's around what we've been offering, and we think that's fair. They're similar tier receiver. They're both number ones, but they're not Tyreek Hill number ones. They're not Devontae Adams number ones. They're 1Bs, if you will. You know, they're between the 7th and 13th best receivers in the NFL. Very good players, but not $32 million per year, especially for a team that is a run-first offense. Well, speaking of a potential team he could end up with, let's talk Steelers QB situation here on Verts. Is Justin Fields a potential Week 1 starter? I mean, this story continues to evolve in Pittsburgh, where Russell Wilson has this calf thing. He's doing some stuff in practice, but not really many team 11-on-11 drills. I think he finally dipped his toe in the water in that this weekend, but has not been much at all as Fields continues to take the majority of the reps with the ones, especially in team drills. And he's made a strong impression. Our Steelers host here at Chat Sports, Jack Sperry, who's been on the Russell Wilson train, even he admitted that Fields in person looked good. He flew up there for a couple of days of practice this weekend. So it's getting interesting, and ESPN's Dan Graziano went as far to say is, I predict him to start in Week 1. He says that Fields has a real chance and that this is a lot more of a coin flip than people think. And I think at this point in time, it really is. I think going into training camp, they probably looked at this as Russell Wilson's our starter, but, if Justin Fields blows us away, we'll consider it. But once Wilson had the calf issue and Fields started stacking some good days, and again, I don't think it's been perfect by any means. I covered Justin Fields for 3 years for the Chicago Bears on our Bears YouTube channel. I've watched every snap of his career. He's very up and down, especially as a passer. But he does some wow things that will catch people's attention. So it's not surprising me that he's turning heads in training camp. I mean, Arthur Smith, a lot of success as an offensive coordinator in Tennessee. Things didn't quite work out as a head coach in Atlanta. Now calling the plays in Pittsburgh. He said, look, he's a dangerous football player with the ball in his hands. It allows you to get creative. He certainly adds a different element. And the question I keep asking myself in all of this is, what is the best case scenario with Russell Wilson if you're the Steelers? Absolute best case. Like, do we really think 2020 Russell Wilson's going to wake up? I mean, I don't think people realize he's like 2.5, 3 years removed from playing high-level peak Russell Wilson football. When you go that many years at this position at his age without playing at a high level, you rarely get it back. It's, father time is undefeated, right? Like, it hits everybody. I'm not saying he can't be solid. I'm not saying they can't scratch out 9, 10 wins and kind of be what they've been, which is a defensive first team that sneaks into the playoffs. But I don't think he's capable of winning a playoff game in the AFC with these quarterbacks right now. Now, do I think Justin Fields is? That would be a leap as well. I do think his ceiling at this point is clearly higher than Russ's. So why not give that a look? Why not give that a look if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers? Like, what's your goal here? You trying to be a 500 team that sneaks in? Or maybe if a bunch of things click with Fields and you become this Ravens light type of team where you're a power run team, but you have some vertical passing capability with the strong arm young quarterback who throws a good deep ball, maybe, just maybe, it's the perfect storm for Fields in Pittsburgh. So that's kind of where I land on this. You guys know where I stand. I think Fields gives them a better chance to pop. Russell Wilson's probably the safe pick, but again, are you trying to be 8-9, 9-8, or are you trying to shoot for the moon? Like, I would try to get out of this rut of being just above 500 if I was Pittsburgh. Like, there's something to be said for being in the mix always, but it's been, 11 years or whatever since Mike Tomlin's won a playoff game? Does anybody think Russell Wilson can win a playoff team in a conference with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud emerging now, Lamar, Burrow? I don't. I just do not see it. So I would guess Russ starts week 1 still, assuming he's healthy by then. But I don't think that leash is going to be very long at all. And if it were me, I would probably hand the keys to Justin Fields unless he really struggles in some preseason games, because I think so far in camp you've seen some good things. He's building a connection with George Pickens. And imagine they get Brandon Aiyuk too, a clear route separator. And that's the thing with Fields. Like, the reason he struggled in Chicago is he has to see it before he throws it. He's not an anticipation thrower, which gives you limitations as a passing offense. But Aiyuk consistently separates, okay? And George Pickens' physicality, he's more trigger willing to throw him the ball. We've seen that in camp. Like, hey, one-on-one, I'll just throw him the ball, give him a chance. So you give him a guy that separates plus the big body guy in Pickens, that might just work in Pittsburgh. Whereas last year, him and DJ Moore had a good connection, but if teams doubled DJ, he was ineffective because the Bears didn't have guys who could consistently get open, and he's not a great anticipation thrower. So it's going to be interesting. I am fascinated to see how this thing ends up playing out. All right, we will continue to cover it all, plus all other storylines that emerge across the National Football League. So hit that sub button. 100 new guys out there. I know a lot of you guys are watching right now, so if you want to subscribe for free and join this movement, I would greatly appreciate it. We'll see you guys tomorrow here on 4 Verts.